I think that most of us can agree that crochet is absolutely beautiful. Whether you crochet yourself or you're just an admirer of the craft and just enjoy how beautiful it is just to even view. But there may be a few things about crochet in the world of fashion that you guys aren't already aware of. So today I've decided to give you guys a little bit of a lesson of crochet and the fast fashion industry. I'm Jessie of CrochetbyJessie and welcome to my channel. Let's get into today's video. Crochet has become increasingly trendy over the last few years, especially since COVID hit and a lot of people were left to their own devices in lockdown, and during that time a lot of people decided to take up a new hobby, specifically crochet. And even if you weren't crocheting yourself, a lot of people would start to notice maybe a little bit more crochet trickling into your For You page across all forms of social media. And whilst that is absolutely amazing, there have also been a few negatives that have been created by this trend of crochet. And those trends that I am talking about are unfortunately how crochet is being kind of used and abused in the fast fashion industry. If you are a crocheter, you will already know this, but to everyone else that doesn't actually crochet themselves, crochet can only be done by hand. Whereas knitting can be done by hand, there are specific machines and can be done just completely by machine. Crochet is the opposite. And that's when you can start to see the grey area that arises when crochet is being sold in commercial stores and for the purpose of fast fashion. The reason this starts to become quite problematic is because a lot of the prices that you see out there are not being charged fairly in the slightest for a crochet piece. When you look at small businesses and crochet artists, a lot of us tend to not sell physical items because we're aware of the time and the effort that goes into each piece. And because of that, we know that if we were to charge ourselves fairly, we would have to charge quite a lot, and enough that would be quite shocking to people if you're potentially having a look and thinking, oh, I'd be interested, and find out it's hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And that's why a lot of us don't do it, because we know that if we were to sell these items, it would have to be expensive, and not everyone's going to want to pay that much, which is why you're kind of going in a circle. And that's why designers, for the most part, don't really sell the physical items. I myself sell patterns instead, purely because I don't want to sell physical items for this reason. However, a lot of the items that are crochet related are being sold for very, very, very low prices in the grand scheme of things. I will point out now that this isn't for every case of crochet items, because a lot of the time there's a lot of kind of knitted techniques with the machines that are made to make a project look like it has been crocheted. What I'm going to try and do is put up an example here of a project that's made to look like granny squares, but you can actually tell it is knitted instead of crocheted. I think projects like this are absolutely fine because I think it's inspiration of crochet, but without it actually being crochet, because I understand the aesthetic of granny squares and other projects like that, and that's part of what has been trending over the last few years. And knowing it's knitted, but inspired by crochet, it makes it not as bad in my eyes. Some people might not like the fact that it's taking the inspo, but because it's not actually crocheted, that's not what I see as an issue with this. However, there are certain brands, shops, all that kind of thing, where you see a lot of work and it is very, very clearly proper crochet. I want to say now, the places that I am going to talk about in this video, I am not by any means saying that you should not shop there. I do shop at most of these places, I will admit, but then I also know that I would never personally go for a crocheted item, and I want you guys to be aware of this just so you guys do know what it means to buy a crochet piece from these places. So the first shop that I'm going to talk about, I order from a lot, but I will never order the specific crochet pieces because I'm just noticing there's quite a lot of them that are appearing on the website, and based on the prices you can tell they're not ethically sourced, and it's really sad to know that, but I also know that not everyone is going to know that. So I just want to educate people before you go ahead and buy these pieces to know that if it is genuine crochet, that these pieces are a little bit more problematic than anything else that I've personally seen in the fast fashion industry. You may disagree with me, that is absolutely fine, but I feel like because I am a crocheter, I have that first-hand experience of knowing how much time and energy goes into every single project. And a lot of their crochet stuff that they put on their website, it's not faux crochet where it's made to look like it is, it's genuine crochet. And some of the designs, they're really, really pretty and they're lovely, and I would probably make something like that myself. But knowing it's actual crochet is really disheartening, to be honest, and I feel like a lot of designers and creators out there probably feel the same too. Here are a few examples examples of the pieces that I have found on the website that are genuine crochet. And there seems to be a trend with granny squares being replicated. I've seen some basic bralettes, some cover-ups, and yeah, unfortunately, some of these are on sale and some of the items are like £15 or less, and that is nothing for crochet, especially considering how intricate some of these pieces are as well. I will, on the other hand, point out how these pieces here are described as crochet in the listing, but they aren't actually crochet items. These instead are made and they are knitted. So they are made to look like crochet, but they're not actually crochet items. It doesn't really take away from the fact that a lot of these items are obviously still crocheted and it's being sold for such a low price. And maybe before I really got into crochet and before I kind of got truly back into it, because I've always been crocheting, but I feel like my knowledge of crochet and my love of it has really, really deepened since 2020. And before, maybe I wouldn't have batted an eyelid as much and just thought, oh cool, there's crochet on here. But knowing now, I feel like it is my responsibility as a crocheter with a platform just to tell you guys that this is a thing, because a lot of people probably do have the assumption that if you can use a machine to knit, that you can probably use a machine to crochet, but you really can't. That has not been invented yet, and hopefully it doesn't get invented, because I like that crochet can only be made by hand. Not in these circumstances, but I like that it can only be made by hand. Another example of a shop that I have seen, not maybe necessarily with lots of actual crochet items, I have been told by people that physical crochet items have been sold there. A lot of the stuff I've seen has been the faux crochet, where it's a knitting machine made to look like crochet, and that is Primark. Primark in general, I will say it's gotten a bit more expensive over the years, but for the most part, it's known as one of those shops where you can get things a little bit cheaper. And I would say I personally have not come across a actual crochet item when I have been there and been shopping. And I have just seen the faux items. The faux items look really nice. There's been some really good takes on them. And yeah, knowing that it's not actually crocheted from what I have seen is a good feeling. It's a bit of a shame, because I have been told that people have come across and had a proper look around the store and seen actual crochet items, whether it's in the home section, maybe more specifically in this case. Hopefully they continue to, for the most part, do faux crochet and just phase out the actual crochet pieces or charge them more fairly in the future, because selling crochet is amazing, but you need to do it ethically. You need to do it in the right way for the right reasons, and not just because it's currently a trend, but because you love the craft itself. And that is really hard when you have such a big company that is selling these items, which is why I love crochet on the smaller scale, because crochet is authentic and you want to feel like you're getting it from a more authentic seller that knows its worth, knows the value of it, the time that goes into it, the skill that goes into it, and charges it fairly for that reason. The final place that I am going to talk about, I would say, is probably the biggest culprit when it comes to crochet and fast fashion and maybe not ethically sourcing the crochet, paying proper wages for it, is the kind of websites such as like Shein, Temu, those kind of places. I can't say with confidence that the actual items that arrive are crocheted, because I also know with websites like that, you can order one thing and something completely different can arrive. So I wouldn't always believe the photos, I would say, that are being advertised for the product. But equally, if these items are actually crocheted, the prices that they are being sold for is crazy. I already know that not necessarily all of these places are sourcing what they sell ethically. I'm not going to go into it fully, because I know that I'm not completely educated on the topic and I don't want to just start rambling on. But regardless of where they're being brought from, these items are not being sold for a fair price. I'm going to put a few examples here, and I can tell you guys now that this isn't how much the item should be charged for, and someone out there made it, and it's worth a lot of time and energy and the skill of crochet in itself. So seeing items being sold like this, regardless if it arrives and it might be machine made with a knitting machine and it is just made to look as faux crochet again, it's still very, very sad to see crochet being advertised for prices like this. So what to take away from this video is crochet is intricate, it takes time, energy, skill, and it can only be made by a person. So be a little bit mindful when you're looking in stores or online and you're seeing these crochet pieces. Maybe have a little bit of a closer look and see if you can tell if it's crocheted, or if you know someone who crochets, maybe send them a screenshot or a photo and say, is this real or not? And that could be a little bit of a guide, because I know that I don't feel right buying items that I know are handmade and are not being sold for what they should be, and because of that, the people that are making them are not being paid fairly. Putting it simply, there's no other way to really say it. I am very passionate about this topic, and I do feel like all crocheters are, because behind every crochet piece that you see is a person that spent countless hours and so much time and energy and love into that project. So it's really a shame when it doesn't feel like that's been taken into consideration, and when things are being mass made in not great circumstances, and when the consumer is none the wiser to the reality of it. I hope you guys walk away from this video just a little bit more educated and maybe hesitant to look a little bit more at the piece that you might be buying and wondering if it is just faux crochet or if it is true crochet. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I know it's a little bit different to everything else that's on my channel, but honestly, I'm really passionate about this topic, as all crocheters are, and because I have the platform to educate and make people aware of this, I just thought it'd be a really good opportunity too. If you want to see everything and anything else crochet related, then do give me a subscribe to my channel, because I will crochet and I will talk about anything, and I will teach you guys, and I will do tutorials, and I'll do the whole shebang, because I love crochet, as you can already gather from this entire video. So with all of that being said, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!